I have a very smooth brain. I'm very proud of it.
Hey, thank you for joining the Escape with Me Book Club. Escape with me, Sam Reiner.
And me, Tim Bergman.
Into our most recent read. Come with us as we evade reality and go into detail about a new book. We'll be covering the book from beginning to end, so there will be spoilers. Today we're going to Victorian England, published in 1958. Basil of Baker Street is a gateway book to the more adult Sherlock Holmes series. Learning from the great detective himself, Basil works hard to help solve the hardest mysteries known to mousekind. A kidnapping has struck close to home. Can Basil find the kidnapped children before Homestead is overrun with gang members, or will he be too late? So, background to this is once again another pick you have found that a obscure Disney / John Bluth movie has a book that it's based upon, which has just brought me to the conclusion that nothing in Disney is original. Why are people upset? They were never original to begin with.
Yep, I was thinking about the same thing. That phrase I had, I think, a couple reviews ago, where it was the difference between fan fiction and adaptation is $2 million.
Whatever prime time you thought for Disney, it was based on a book / fairy tale written into a book. This has shook my faith. The very little bit I had.
So for all you middle schoolers and post-middle schoolers that have been busy fantasizing about your fan favorite characters in your notebooks, there is a chance that you could be hired by Disney.
I mean, to be fair, I did just finish a book that the author credits Transformers for existing, and then she wrote Transformers fanfiction for a while, and then she wrote this book. So the book itself isn't Transformer fanfiction, but it kind of is.
You know, I really think you go back far enough, it's just one story, and it's just been continuously updated over the past 6,000 years.
Oh, yeah. No, I took creative writing in college for my gen ed credits, and the first thing he said was, there are no new stories. Every story has already been written. Just write it your way now.
Yeah, because isn't Cinderella like from ancient Egypt?
Cinderella's a fun time because not every, obviously, but there are so many civilizations that have a Cinderella story. It's just like if you go far enough back, every civilization has a massive flood story, but about Cinderella. You can find it in China, you can find it in Africa, you can find it in Europe, you can find it in Egypt. It's everywhere, which just fascinates me to no end. I collected them when I was little, and I swear I had one from every country I could think of.
And we apologize, audience. We did not do due diligence in finding out the proper origin of the Great Mouse Detective in prehistory.
But vaguely remember the movie, sitting down with my husband to watch it because he's having a fun time doing this as well. And I told him, all I remember about the movie is that it was scary. And my little me brain, whenever I thought about watching it, the good was outweighed by the negative, and so I always chose not to watch it again. I was like, it's too scary. There's no good parts to make it worth it. Lion King is scary, and Beauty and the Beast is scary, and Sleeping Beauty is scary, but they have enough good in it that it's like, okay, it's kind of worth getting scared, and I was like, this is not one of them. And after watching the movie, yeah, that's about right. We were joking, though. We have our kid watching it with us. We were joking. I was like, I wonder which of these scenes is going to traumatize him. Which of the ones is he going to be like, oh, that's too far? In my core memory now.
There was some weird stuff in that movie.
There's some weird stuff in that movie.
And I'll say this, as for my anecdote for the movie, this is the first time I've watched it.
Really?
Yep, but listen to this. My family was a Disney VHS kind of family, right? Way back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I remember seeing trailers for this movie each and every single time we wanted to watch another movie.
Oh, yeah, I have poor memories of trying to watch. I don't even remember what it is. I just remember every time I watched it, we had to watch a Bug's Life trailer.
Yeah.
I think it was Little Mermaid, actually, but every single time we had to watch that trailer.
Yeah, and so there were lines and scenes from this movie that I feel like I knew by heart, and only now have I seen them in context.
Well, there you go.
It's a very strange feeling, because there's about a 20-year divorce from the last time I watched a trailer.
There we go. I'm so glad we were able to full circle this for you. But as far as Sherlock goes, you know, I'm an Agatha Christie girly, but I do like Sherlock. I was kind of bored of the books growing up, so I didn't really get into them. I was a Nancy Drew girl as well. And it wasn't until our friend made our forensics classroom watch the first Sherlock, the TV show.
Oh, with
Benedict Cumberbatch, yeah.
Yeah, and that was in the Great British Explosion of the mid-2010s, right?
Yeah. So finally watched that, and I got really into it. And I was like, you know what? Let me go back and give Sherlock some looks here. And so it was senior year into college that I got back and actually read Sherlock and gave it its appreciation. I mean, I'm still a huge Hercule Poirot fan. If I had to deal with one of those two, it would be Hercule every single day. But it was good to get back into some roots, giving him credit where credit's due. I think Doyle deserves a lot of credit for everything he did, for both for literature and the field of forensics. So yeah, excited to find when I first started reading this book, the little shout out, basically the dedication was literally, thank you, Sir Conan Doyle. I hope these books get kids reading Sherlock. So that was very cute in the beginning of the first book. So obviously, but this is age level children's. This is a children's book for sure. The only content warning you have is kidnapping, and it is the most G-rated kidnapping that has ever existed. The worst that happens is they're like, and we're going to keep them. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
They're kidnapped and they're still being fed candy.
Yeah.
Pretty good. They're dirty and they are in a barn, but it's not traumatizing at all. I read worse in Wizard of Oz, so we good. But judge a book by its cover. I have the newish iterations with the cute cartoon mouse. I don't know when the iteration came out, but I love the new covers versus the old covers. I think they're cute and have a lot of personality. And if I was a kid, I would think they were really fun. But all I knew from it, I was like, okay, so this is Sherlock, but mice. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
There's no understatement, by the way. There's no subtle reference to Sherlock Holmes. No, this is Sherlock Holmes as a mouse.
Literally. And the book itself is Doyle's writing style for children. No drugs, no alcohol, no kids on the street running around as urchins to get information, no prostitution, no any of that. So it's good, clean family fun, Sherlock edition. And then, I don't know, when they go through their edgy phase, it's in middle school and upgrade to Sherlock, I guess. I don't know. I'm honestly trying to think about it. And I'm just like, when is the bridge? When does it stop being Basil and when does it start being Sherlock? Which is just something I was thinking about. I'm sure by middle school they're fine.
Yeah.
But full disclosure, I managed to get 3 of the books before recording. And for some reason, Basil Goes to Mexico is very popular with our library service, so I got stopped there. So I read 3 of the 8. Physically read the first one, and then I listened to 2 and 3, which was fun, and I'm glad that I did that because there are some later book stuff that gets brought up in the movie, because you can tell that they read the whole series and then made the movie. So yeah, 3 whole books, all 3 of them. Very proud.
Yep, I have only had the first 2 physical books, so his journey ends for me on top of a mountain.
Fair. It's funny because I think canonically the 3rd one comes after the first one, because the first one ends and it's like, oh no, someone's at the door and oh gosh, the Maharaja, we didn't know what happened to him. And then the 3rd book begins with, oh no, the Maharaja has been kidnapped. And when you read the physical first one, it mentions that, oh, number 3 is out now. Here's a excerpt from that book. And then, more coming soon. But yeah, for some reason, there's a number 2 book in between there where they look for the lost colony of Polish mice.
Swiss
mice. It's somewhere.
Yep, it is up in the Swiss mountains.
Somewhere in there. So, there you have it. Yeah, the book's pretty simple. I do like some of the references. Basil. He's named Basil because probably the most famous actor to play Sherlock Holmes, not the original, but the most famous, is a guy named Basil, which they got for the movie to voice the actual Sherlock Holmes, which was a pretty cool grab. A very good nod. He is probably who you think of when you think Sherlock Holmes. He's got the face for it.
Philip St. John Basil Rathbone.
Yep, he's an Anglo-African actor. Came up as a Shakespearean, as everyone did during that time period in the UK. But yeah, he kind of went all over the place. He did a lot of horror. He did a lot of, they call them costume dramas, where you kind of get dressed up and do stuff, but he did a lot of Sherlock. Oh, he was in, okay, some of his probably his lower ranked stuff. Hillbillies in a Haunted House. Oh, he was in The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Oh, how about that? What are the lesser known Disneys?
Which that frog is bipolar and no one can convince me otherwise. Oh, The Mask of Zorro. They're not saying what part he played, but Lady of Scoundrel. So, Feather in Her Hat. Okay. And then we got the Romeo and Juliet. Son of Frankenstein. Then he starts doing a ton of Sherlock stuff. Started with Hounds of Baskerville and did a lot of those through his career. And then, the last thing he did before Great Mouse Detective was Hillbillies in a Haunted House. And then, if you want to know, like, the quality of his stuff at this point, which Hillbillies in a Haunted House is a G-rated movie. Then again, it came out in 1967, and I don't think they had anything between G and R anyway. But the one he did before that was not rated, and it's called The Ghost in the Invisible Bikini. So, pretty low. Pretty sad. But, yeah, he reprised his role in 1986 with the movie, and it looks like that was the last thing he did. Well, I'm glad he got to reprise his role. That's pretty fun. He did 12 Holmes movies between 1942 and 1946. So in 4 years, he did 12 movies. So yeah, okay. So he didn't reprise his role. Here it is. Rathbone died suddenly of a heart attack in New York City on July 21st, 1967 at the age of 75. So yeah, they took an archive sound and put that into the movie. There we go. We figured it out.
Mystery solved. Maybe we should be writing books.
So that's where we get Basil. And then Dawson is, honestly, in my opinion, perfect syllable-wise. First of all, if they started with a T, Dawson, it would literally just switch the W and the T in Watson. But I think they did Dawson because W is a softer sound than a T, which is a harder sound. I know a lot about phonetics right now. That's what we're working on. So when you say elementary, my dear Watson, you kind of get the same monosyllabic feel of elementary, my dear Dawson.
Yeah.
But Agatha is one of the twins that gets kidnapped, and I think that's a nod to Agatha Christie. And then I'm trying to figure out who Angela is. Or is that just a name that went with...
Probably A and A, yeah.
That went with it. Because Angela Ryder. Let's see. Angela Carter. Okay. It might be Angela Carter. No, it's not Angela Carter because she's published in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So, no clue. Maybe it just sounds good with Agatha.
Alliteration.
Yeah, twin names. So we got to give them both the same names and same outfits and, yada, yada, yada. But that is my thoughts because the Basil one's pretty obvious. And then I do think the Agatha is a nod. They were friends later in life. He did not like being compared to her and vice versa. And then later in life, when Doyle got into his mysticism, he became friends with her.
Huh.
When she disappeared, he hosting seances with like her glove and stuff to try to locate her. So
okay, that's
yeah, for not the father of forensics, but huge proponent for don't just say things, have proof police. That's the whole reason I'm writing this series. Went real hardcore into mysticism and later in his life, to the point where Harry Houdini, also his friends, got really mad at him because Houdini was all about debunking fake mysticism stuff, and he was like, you're just playing into their role and whatever, which is funny because Houdini did believe in true mysticism, but because he himself was a trickster, he would often go to these people that were like, oh, I can talk to the dead, I can read your future and this, that, and the other thing, and then just prove them false. And so they got into a tiff about that later in life, and I think they made up before Houdini's death, but I cannot remember off the top of my head. But yeah, famous people knowing each other, right?
Yeah, and people indulging in mysticism has been a thing for years and years.
I know, but it was just so crazy to hear about.
It's not the people you expect, yeah.
The guy that wrote Sherlock Holmes believing in fairies and all the other mysticism later in life. It was just like, that is a 180.
Yeah.
So, fun facts about that. This is just me avoiding talking about the movie, I feel like. Here are all the fun facts. Also, just pad out the time, because it's pretty simple.
Yeah, what did I say was about 100 pages in size 16 font with every other page being an illustration? Even
in the Kindle version, it had all of the illustrations.
Yep.
It's a lot. It is good. I liked the first one. It is very, very classic Sherlock Holmes mystery. There's a thing. Sherlock figures out the thing. There's evil gang members. You have to outsmart the gang members. And oh my goodness, we managed to do it because good always conquers evil, even when it doesn't make sense. But it's children's books.
Yeah.
Of course the police shows up and overtakes the hooligans. Of course. Basil is always the most masterful masters that ever mastered everything, and they figure it out. And the twins were kidnapped because these guys called the Terrible Three looked at their house situation, which is they've set up in the basement of 221B Baker Street and made a civilization in it. And the gang members were like, we would like that, actually. So we're going to kidnap these two people, and we're going to run you out in like 3 days if you don't just straight up leave. So figures out where they are in the most Sherlock ways possible, looking at dirt.
Yeah, by the ransom note and by the person who delivered the ransom note.
The dirt on the shoes of the person that delivered the ransom note. Figures out where they are, travels there, talks to people, everybody immediately tells him things.
And he is a master of disguise. Let's not forget that very important fact.
Because he is in the book. See, there's some grace I have to give this, where it's like you have to kind of work within that Holmes framework. And sometimes what works in the 1920s doesn't always work in the 1950s, but it's fine. They rewrote Nancy Drew in the 50s. It's fine. Figures out where they are, gets the police to take them down, figures out where the twins are, and wouldn't you know it, while he's at it, he's doing good things for this random dude who doesn't have work and was being blackmailed by the evil three, or the terrible three, and oh my goodness, he's gonna get saved too, and it's wonderful, and happy ending, yay! There's the book. It's a children's book.
Yep.
It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point. It's 15 chapters, which I thought was actually very appropriate, a good amount of chunk. So chapters ended up being like 4 or 5 pages with illustrations. Maybe that's just the Kindle version and they're smaller because I didn't have the physical, but it felt like 5, 6, 7 pages with illustrations with the chapters, which I think is a good spacing for, this is young children's.
Yeah.
This is a little bit above my first chapter book, but not much. Only because it has bigger words, because Sherlock. But if some of the words were scaled down, it would definitely be my first chapter book. Also pretty pictures. So it's a great something to read to your kid. And you can do accents, which they would love. But the movie was like, this is the 80s. We gotta make everything dark. Also, it's London, so what is the sun? There is no sun in the entire movie.
Yep.
Only rain and darkness, which I have been told is accurate for a London setting. So they take a character introduced in the second book, his Moriarty in the mouse world, which I do think it's a little bit weird. The second book is just like, nah, Rack-and-Brick Falls right now. We're not going to wait. No, as soon as we can bring it up, we're going to just have that pop up. It's fine, guys. No spoilers or anything. But yeah, we've got Moriarty of mice running around, and oh no, he's going to create a machine to replace Queen Victoria, Mouse Victoria, not the real one, which just really begs the questions, how does human politics and mouse politics overlap? Apparently there was an Afghanistan war for mice?
Yeah, I did not think about that exact thing until right now. But I guess it's kind of like the Rescuers, where things just kind of happen.
Yeah, but what is Queen Mouse Victoria doing? He's like, oh, here's my list of demands. Apparently they don't have a parliament in this mouse world. That's found out real fast because he's like, and here are my list of demands. How much power does Mouse Queen Victoria have if Queen Victoria and actual parliament want to do something different? You know what I'm saying? I have questions.
But I'll say something. That main villain, Professor Ratigan, was voiced by the legendary Vincent Price.
Honestly, I'm going to, if I was going to say anything for the movie, the voice actors gave it their all.
Oh yeah. And by the way, he was 75 when he did this role.
Really?
Yep, 75 years old.
He's like, nah.
Yeah, and apparently, if I'm reading the trivia right, it was the first time in 45 years that he had to audition for a role.
Oh my gosh, he had to audition.
But they loved him in it because every time he went to the studio, because he hated the recent, the then recent trend of all of these villains being these understated, sneaky, but very professional type. They never raise their voice. They never chew the scenery. They're just very monotone and villainous. He wanted Ratigan to be this over-the-top song and dance, really just reveling in his own villainy kind of guy. And they loved it.
Yeah, what was coming out? Let me see. There was a movie that this movie was directly competing against.
Was it Black Cauldron?
No, that's Disney's. No, it was a John Bluth, American Dream?
Oh, American Tail?
Yes, American Tail came out the same year as this movie. It won by popular opinion, which after watching the movie, not surprised. And so that was a huge thing because obviously Bluth used to be a Disney employee and they kind of underappreciated him. And so this was his big chance to be like, screw you, Disney. But voice actors aside, the animation's okay. This is apparently the first movie to ever use CGI.
Wow.
Which I think is done really well. Yeah, the gears on Big Ben are CGI. It's pretty cool. I think the animation is fine. It's good. It looks nice.
Yeah, the clock tower scene is fantastic.
The writing... How do I put this? I was watching the movie with my husband, who I jokingly said, you're not saying this is a beloved children's movie. I'm like trashing it a little bit. And he was like, because it's not. He was like, this is the dark age of Disney, literally and figuratively. You know, we got the Black Cauldron, Oliver and Company, which I stand by Oliver and Company, but just the really, really unnecessarily dark Disney movies. How can I be both, this is terrifying, but also I am so bored right now? Because the pacing
was a little off.
The pacing is terrible. It's so bad. For example, there's a scene of a record playing, and once the song is over, you're gonna die. I swear they play the entire record.
And it was Vincent Price singing.
Great song. Love it on the soundtrack. But if you compare it a little bit later to the Disney Renaissance, there is not a shot of Beauty and the Beast that is not tight. That is without purpose. Every single thing is very purposeful. Little Mermaid, Aladdin, every shot is super purposeful and thought out. Where we are literally just in a room, they're tied to a mousetrap, the little girl's stuck in a bottle, there are dangerous weapons above us, and we are going to pan to each of these like 6 times before the scene moves on. And this movie is only an hour and like 6 minutes. How long is it?
Let's see, I actually have the runtime. Let's see, 74 minutes, an hour 14.
I was close. But yeah, no, this isn't even 90 minutes.
Yeah, we might be reviewing it for longer than this movie.
We don't have this time to waste. Well, I guess we do, technically, but it's so drawn out. Every single scene is very drawn out. And Basil gets on my nerves because they keep having him have, oh no, I'm so terrible, nah, to like pad out the runtime. And I'm just like, shut up and just do the thing.
Yep.
Yeah, the movie's terrifying. Like, there isn't a shot of it where I'm like, that's normal. We watched a review of it and someone called it cute, and I'm like, where? Where is it cute? Like, the first 2 minutes, that was cute, but then the bat showed up. And the bat's kind of the biggest problem here. Pegleg Pete. I think he's called like Flinchy. Finchy? Let me pull up the names. But that just made me curious about the bat slander. What you got against bats? What, you and Anastasia making them henchmen. What you got against bats? Oh, The Fox and the Hound also came out around this time period, to give you even more of an idea. Robin Hood came out, which I also stand by Robin Hood. Anyway, that's not what I'm supposed to be. The Sword and the Stone came out around this time period. Okay, no, where are the characters? Fidget, that's what his name is. Oh my gosh, the voice actor is named Candy Candido. I like it. That is a show business name if I've ever seen one. I love it. He was a singer as well as a voice actor. He's a radio performer. His most famous line is, "I'm feeling mighty low." And he does a lot of animal vocalizations. Interesting. I was right. Jonathan Joseph Candido, or Candy. Anyway, bat's terrifying. There is no scene of the bat that isn't terrifying, except when he gets his peg leg stuck in the floor for a little bit. That's a little funny. But he's terrifying. The cat's terrifying. The villain's terrifying.
I'm reading down the list of voice actors. Candy Candido as Fidget. Candido also voices a reprobate in the pub. What a fantastic description.
Which, speaking of the pub scene, a furry bait?
Yeah,
Which, by the way, they almost didn't get a G rating for that scene, for the dancing mouse lady.
Yeah, what do you call that? Burlesque?
Burlesque. The alcohol, the drug references, the violent on and off screen deaths.
Yeah, it's just...
Totally fine. But we can't have the furries running around here, guys.
Yeah, it's just... It came out of left field. I remember slightly that scene from the trailer, and I thought to myself, oh, this character is going to be important from now on. They wouldn't just have this girl do like a one-off show.
There are two random song moments. Like, yeah, you have the record, but like that's narrative. The villain has a song, and then there's just this random burlesque scene in the middle of the movie to pad the runtime.
Oh, what I really liked, not that scene, but the scene that came directly before it and that scene, was the poisoning of the beer.
Yeah, he just like straight up lets him drink it.
Well, yeah, here's the thing is like Dawson and Basil go into the pub. Basil, I'm trying not to say Holmes and Watson. That is the most difficult part of this whole thing, even though I watched the movie and read the books. But Basil goes in there.
So I was wrong, by the way. PG came out in 1972. So what is this rating? Keep going.
So Basil and Dawson go to the pub. Basil starts fishing for information a little too loudly. The bartender poisons their drinks and gives them to him for free. Basil's like, hey, don't drink this. Dawson immediately drinks his. It's not poison. It just makes them a bit goofy.
He just gets drunk. Yeah, I thought I was gonna murder them.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was thinking, those fiends, they put alcohol in his beer.
Obviously, it's cider, guys. No.
No, you can't even say that because they directly mention beer in the song.
This movie has a G rating, and they almost had a PG rating because of the burlesque scene. Do you know how they got out of that?
How?
It's a mouse. They're not human. It doesn't count.
Oh my, for an innocent age of innocent minds.
My husband was joking and was like, I'm not worried about traumatizing our kids. I'm not worried about shaping his sexuality here. Are we raising a furry from this movie?
Yeah, you know, I think we might need to take a break from fuzzy critters because this movie, I want to take a break from all of this.
Don't worry, next we're doing dragons. It's different.
Oh, goodness gracious. Just a strange scene, and it follows up into a scene that I really enjoy where Basil and Dawson go up and they find Ratigan's secret lair, and Ratigan welcomes them with open arms with a big sign that says...
Flag! It's so petty! I love it! He's just like, hey, my boy! Might as well have the middle finger up there!
He's such a ham.
I do like him.
And I'm just kind of imagining to myself in my adult mind, where it's like a kid will just take this at face value. As me, it's kind of like, this guy probably had 12 hours or less, maybe only like 3 or 4 even, to make this sign, set up the trap, and go through all of this trouble to go through the confetti and the yarn, and he just did it anyway.
Which I love. He's like, I couldn't decide how to murder you, so I chose all of the ways?
Yeah, an anvil, an axe, a gun, a mouse trap, at least like 2 other things.
But what gets me is he cut a whole vinyl record.
Oh yeah, I don't think he had that prepared beforehand. So in addition to making the sign, the confetti, the traps, he also sang a 3-minute song, recorded it, and had it ready to go.
And it's human size too, so it's like, oh my gosh, I love it so much. Anyway.
Yeah, Vincent Price, thank you so much.
I do stand by that song. I think that scene is awful, but I do love the song.
Yeah, honestly, it is a fine scene if it was tweaked a bit. The whole villain recording themselves is just such an eccentric absurdity. You can't help but love it.
It just needed to be shorter. It felt like padding.
Yeah.
But he is so Moriarty that I love it.
Yep.
That's the thing we love about Moriarty.
Yeah.
They're so smart, they're so stupid. It's just so much. Love it.
Yeah, where it's like they each have their blind spots.
And both of them is vanity.
The fact that Sherlock, for some reason, despite having a mind like a steel trap, cannot remember the little girl's name.
But he does. That's the thing. We were talking about it because wow, he's being so stupid, which is a little bit funny because everyone can't pronounce Benedict Cumberbatch's name. Full circle. But in the movie, he mispronounces her name like 3 different ways. But when he's doing the hot air balloon, he yells down, he's like, Dr. Dawson! And then says the girl's name, I forget what it is at this point.
Flaversham.
Dr. Dawson, Flaversham, get up here! So he knows her name. He's just messing around with everybody.
Yeah.
The fact that he does that, and then in their goodbyes, he does it again.
Yep.
He's doing it on purpose. And the little girl's pretty cute.
Oh, yeah. And she has a Scottish accent.
Which is pretty great. People are so excited to pair Sherlock with a daughter. So they just, or a little girl of some sort. They just get so excited to pair the two. Honestly, one of my favorite spin-off series is by obviously another author than Doyle, but is the daughter of Sherlock Holmes, and I'm quite enjoying it. I think I'm caught up to the series now, so now I have to wait. Lame. Love pairing him with a little girl every single time, and I'm for it. She doesn't really add to most of the story and gets kidnapped, honestly, pretty quickly after that, but I like her. I kind of wish she had more screen time. Did we have to give Peglib Pete like 4 different scenes?
Yeah, he had a lot of scenes for the minor villain.
Like, I don't even think, and I Keeker, sir, got that many, what is his name? You can tell what I quote from the movie and what I don't. Bartok. Bartok doesn't even get that many scenes, and he's just iconic and beautiful.
Yep.
Once again, the dude that voices him, pretty great. That Candy dude, probably my favorite line is his when he gets kicked in the leg and he goes, my leg, my only leg. Oh my gosh, it's so true. He only has one leg. The self-realization is so good. But yeah, most of them, I feel like that's all the good parts. The clock tower is good. Basil getting to call him a bunch of names through the fake Queen Victoria is pretty good. Apparently he gets really offended when someone calls him a rat, when he very obviously is a rat. My dude, you are ginormous. As a mouse, he has a 5 o'clock shadow. He is a furry mouse.
Yep.
It's just the pacing. The pacing's pretty off for most of the movie. And it doesn't really overlap with the book too much. It had nothing to do with the 3rd book, which is about a ancient race of cats being ruled by mice. Yes, no. It's kind of like a lost civilization, but ancient history and cats.
They do have references here and there.
They do have references.
Like the disguises they wear are from the 1st book.
It is. I was so surprised. They dress up like sailors, and I was like, oh my goodness, there's the thing.
Yep, and I think the dog is from the 2nd book, right?
I don't remember a dog.
Yep, the dog that takes them slightly up the mountain.
Oh, no, I think that's a direct reference. Toby is a dog from the Sherlock series, and he is a basset hound, and he's used for his nose. So I think that was just a direct reference.
Gotcha. But it was interesting to see the design of Ratigan change. Because in the books, Ratigan is
a mouse. He's just a normal mouse.
Yeah, and he's Basil-sized.
Yep.
Because in the 2nd book, they have, of all things, a wrestling competition, because Ratigan's pride is too big for him to say no.
And, oh no, they've both fallen over the waterfall.
Yeah, they were wrestling next to a waterfall, and they both just heaved themselves over.
Oh no, they're dead. Oh wait, no, they're not. Somebody grabbed both of them. Because this is a children's book.
Yep, but they definitely changed his character for the better, I think, in the movie.
They gotta make him scary.
Yeah.
He wants to be an over-the-top villain.
And larger than life. Yep.
Although I really do like the TV show's iteration of Moriarty. And Andrew Scott's version of him being small and kind of weaselly and not looking that impressive. Because, come on, literally everyone knew about this guy. Why aren't we getting the army on him? His house is a giant wine barrel with a huge R on it. Why aren't you finding this guy earlier? Because cartoon logic, but that's beside the point. Every villain's gotta have a really cool hideout. Otherwise, how are we selling the toys? I wonder what toys came out with this. Can you imagine the promotional materials for this? Can you imagine the McDonald's toys? I don't know if that was this era, but I'm just like, what would that even be? The characters, but I can't think of anything else. Anyway, that is totally beside the point, but it's all good. But yeah, I don't have anything else. We're not even making it to an hour.
Yeah, it was a short book. It was a short movie. There's not much really to say too much about all of this.
Woo, we did it. I've ranted. I've indulged in my rants way more than I normally would just to have content. But it's fine. I don't need to make more work for myself. It's all good. We can just have a short episode. It's fine. I liked the first book. I gave it 5 stars. You gave it 3 stars.
Maybe it's because I was a Hardy Boys kind of guy, or maybe it's because I couldn't read it through the eyes of a child like I could a lot of other books. But I think this series is just, it's not what I enjoy, and I don't think it is very well written, despite 2,000 reviews disagreeing with me.
Well, what do you think of the second book? Because I like the first book because it has the classic Sherlock mystery, but the second and the third book definitely go hard on the action portions. So how did you feel more about the action books? Because I gave the second one 3 stars, because I'm just not that interested in his action stuff, because it always feels over the top and like, oh my gosh, I can do literally anything and this, that, and the other thing. And so I'm just like, that's less exciting to me.
The second book I liked even less.
Oh, really?
Yep, maybe it's because I'm so divorced from those adventure-style books.
Like Boxcar Children.
Magic Treehouse.
Those kind of books.
Yep, it's just the writing was odd for me, the plot was odd for me, and so something wasn't connecting. I'm sure for a lot of people, and I know this for sure, because Goodreads, of 360 ratings, it has a near 4-star, and I gave it a 2-star. I just didn't like it, and I guess that happens sometimes, because, different tastes.
Out of curiosity, how do you feel about Sherlock books? Have you read them?
I remember reading them in middle and high school. I remember Sherlock's Adventures in America more than most. But yeah, I was never actually a huge Sherlock fan. And even then, with the TV show, I was still pretty distant from that after probably the first season.
Which I will stand through the second, but yeah, it definitely didn't have the momentum it had for the first one. But that's a totally different conversation.
Yeah. So for those of you out there who are... Actually, we haven't gotten to the recommendation yet.
No. So general thoughts, I liked it. You did not like it. It might just be a style thing. Like you're just not interested in that type of book.
Yeah, I think my final verdict is I personally did not like it, but I know a lot of people, well, I don't know a lot of people, but people can like this, and I won't fault them for that because my taste is incredibly subjective, and mysteries were never a huge thing of mine. And so I can definitely see why people like this, and I can definitely see people liking it.
I don't know if I would buy going in, I thought I'd get the whole series, but I might just get the first book for the little one. I stand by that one. And then if I'm surprised and they very, very much want more, we'll get more. I'm not opposed to it. I just personally wouldn't want to have to read it to him. When you can read it yourself, you can read whatever the heck you want. But if I'm having to read it with you, we're going to read stuff that I like too.
Right.
One question for the author. I think I answered my own question. Not on the episode, but in my mind. Why the obsession with mice? Because this author also wrote another series with another mouse taking place in Paris. I was just thinking about why children's book in general seem to really like mice,
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been the theme for our Fuzzy Critters in Horrible Situations podcast.
We're on book 4 of Fuzzy Mice.
And we still have at least one more to go.
If we don't do more Redwall.
We'll see, he says, knowing exactly what he means.
But what about mice is so interesting, and they're small. They are small things trying to make it in a big world. What does that sound like? Kids. Kids are also small things trying to make it in a big world. And so I feel like they can empathize with that. Them struggling to get on couches and thinking big things are scary and the goofballiness of them, but also like the terrified of everything, like combination. It makes sense. The more I thought about it, that of course mice would be what a lot of people write about and kids identify with. They are also small and need a Constance Badger to go beat things up for them. That was my question, why mice? So I'm switching it over and I want to know what her favorite Sherlock story is. There's a lot of them.
It's not a bad question.
I'm going to make my question stick to the originals. This woman has passed away at this point, so I'm going to need a speak with the dead spell.
Yeah, get some Conan Doyle notes on that.
But I'm curious, what is her favorite?
And all right. For me, after the first book, written in 58, 1 year later came a book that we already reviewed, The Rescuers, by Miss Sharp. And I'm wondering, she wrote her first mouse-related book in 56, and she would continue writing mouse-related books up until about 82. And I'm wondering, I would ask her, were there other small fuzzy critter books that you took inspiration from, or books that you have heard took inspiration from you?
Yeah, because we have to look. Eve Titus, the author, I don't know if we've said her name today, wrote the first book in 1958, and as you pointed out, continued on through the 80s. And what does this one say? Was published in 2020. That doesn't seem right. Did someone take? Maybe someone took over the series. Anyway, it looks like they got a second author so that they could write more of these books. But that doesn't mean that's her first book with mice. I think her more famous one
was written in 1956, Anatole, if that's the proper way to pronounce it.
Anatole, which is the French mouse. This is just a renaissance for mice fiction. So many questions. Back when you could, well, I don't know, she might not have made a living with this, but back when you could make a living with being an author. There is an animated television series if we want to look at Anatole. But yes, she did pass away in 2002, and her ashes were spread in the Chesapeake Bay. She was also a concert pianist. Good for her.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have multiple cash revenues. Anyway, so I feel like all these people had to have a conversation at some point. You don't have this many mice authors. They must have had a convention or something. I don't believe these people didn't know each other. But maybe they didn't. I don't know. That's a great question. Rating. I would give it listening to Sherlock out of 10. Your mileage will vary if you like Sherlock or not.
Yep, as proven.
If you like Sherlock, you're going to have a great time. But if you think he's full of himself and kind of boring and a everyman, but the almighty man at the same time where he can do anything and everything perfectly, amazingly the first time because he read a book about it once 3 years ago, your mileage will vary. But that's okay.
I'm going to say it's smile everyone out of 10.
Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
Yeah, because of all the quotes in all the trailers that I saw for that movie, Smile Everyone is the one that managed to stick around for 20 years.
That's what matters.
Yep.
Read again. I'd read the first one again. I wasn't really sold on the second or third one. Him going to Mexico might be interesting, and then the next one's a Wild West one. And then I think we start getting into the co-author, quote-unquote, sections. So I don't know, but I stand by the first one. You will never let this book darken your doorstep again. I take it.
And it's probably because I don't have a child and I'm not that much of a mystery person aside from watching Poirot. And so, along with the whole recommendation thing is, you can like this book, and a great many people will, but there is a small subset like me that is going to say, I've had enough. Once is enough.
We're good. It's fine.
I will say, if somebody just said, hey, do you want to watch The Great Mouse Detective while we're waiting for something? I would say, yeah, you know, it's a fun movie, and maybe I'll close my eyes at the pub scene, because it's just too weird.
Really? I would say you have Disney Plus and that's what you want to watch right now?
Yeah, that is a good...
What is wrong with you?
I have the DVD for Great Mouse Detective. It's like, why do you have that specific DVD?
We're pulling out VHS tapes and this is the one we have?
Yeah, so, you know, it's one of those things where if I had watched this as a kid, I am sure I would like it even more. I do enjoy the animation, I enjoy the eccentricities of the two main characters, but movie-wise, I would say I would watch again, but not anytime soon. There need to be an excuse to do it. Kind of like watching anything from your childhood. And otherwise, yeah, I would not read the books again, given the chance.
But, have you read this book? What's your favorite Sherlock story? Do you have any book recommendations for us? Tell us all about it in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit like, and if you're enjoying yourself, hit subscribe for more. Thank you for exploring Basil of Baker Street with us. Join us next time when we'll be covering Dragon Tooth by Michael Crichton. We're going to go with that. I'm Sam Reiner.
And I'm Tim Bergman.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time. Escape With Me Book Club is a Lunar Skulk production. Check us out on TikTok or Instagram to keep up to date with us. Lunar_SKULK.